Good morning. My name is Jim Muir and I've been a tour guide at Fenwick Hall for over 20 years. And this morning I'm going to be showing Charleston Magazine around this historic manor house. As you can see, the original manor house is the rectangular structure directly in front of us. It was built in 1730s for John Fenwick and his bride, who were given the property by the bride's father, who was a high official in the proprietary government. He gave them all sorts of land and they decided to build the manor house here. And you can see how symmetrical it is. That was what was important in the 1730s. To the left of the manor house is an octagonal addition that was built in the 1750s. And as you can see, it does away with the symmetry by adding the octagonal house. Let's step on inside. Manor houses of this time were remarkably the same in that you had a great room and you had two small rooms over there, another room over here, and then upstairs. Every room had a fireplace. Of course, that was natural in those days. And all of the windows are the kind of windows that can be shuttered from the inside. They used old brick as insulation. Those are all original to the house. Now let's step into one of the paneled rooms. All of these panels are cypress. If you can go from here to here, that's one cypress panel. So you can see the size of the tree that it must have come from. Over here, you will see a Palladian window, named after the Italian architect Palladio. In those days, there always was a separate kitchen house where the cooking fire would be. But one of the mysteries of Fenwick Hall is that we've never been able to find the kitchen house. When Fenwick Hall was used as a rehab facility in the 1950s and 60s, this was a dining facility. Now we're about to go upstairs, but before we do, I want to point out the significance of the banister. This was done in the 1730s, and if you notice the metal plus the carvings on the spindles, it's very interesting. And then there was another stairway that went up here to a landing, and then another stairway that went up to the roof. This is a drawing of the roof. It's a mansard roof, and in the top of the roof, it went down like this, and that's where rainwater would be collected, and they actually had a water distribution to various rooms. This was a patient room when it was a rehab place, and you can see that the door has a number as an E, and the patient's name was put on the door. Now we're in the last of what I call the patient rooms. At the time when the Blanchards lived here, this was one of the Blanchard children's rooms. And now we're going to go into another part of the basement, which according to legend is where the secret tunnel was. So we brought a flashlight. Supposedly it was a secret tunnel to escape if the Indians ever came, but people who know a lot about the house say it was more of a place for water to drain. When John Fenwick was living here and had a daughter who was 17 years old, and she ran away with an Irish coachman. And John Fenwick heard about her, and he sent horsemen after them, and they were captured. And the story goes, they brought the couple back and they put a noose around the coachman's neck, put him on a horse, and the daughter was forced to slap the horse to hang her about-to-be husband. Now we're off to the left of the main manor house in the carriage house, which is from the same time frame. They had a stable over on the other side of the manor house where they kept all the horses, but that's been long gone. Another thing about John Fenwick is that he introduced horse racing to the Low Country. Every stallion, Arabian stallion in America, somehow can be traced to the stallions that John Fenwick brought from England. In the Morowitz's days, they had cactus out here. That was a cactus garden. And they actually imported cactus from the far west to actually have a long row of cactuses here. Unfortunately, Mr. Morowitz died shortly after they had restored the house, and she sold the house to the Blanchards and moved back to New York. And then the Blanchards sold it to the company that had the rehab hospital here. This is what the Fenwick Hall property used to be like, 7,000 acres. And this is what we are on, Tract A. So this is the 55 acres, and the manor house is right about in the middle.
I'm Carl Bloom, and I'm a model railroader. I've retired from Robert Bosch, but this is my hobby now. I build train layouts and run trains around and have my friends come over and help me with the operations. The system's all digital. Each locomotive has its own control cab. So this one controls everything in the yard, the turntable control, the yard tracks, and the various crossovers and the siding to the lift. So typically the trains are made up in the Nauvoo yard. And Nauvoo's my parents' hometown. And Nauvoo never had a railroad, so now it has a railroad. You do operations. You actually take cars to a specific place and swap them out for cars that go someplace else. And it's a real puzzle. It's kind of like solitaire. You know, how do you get the cars into the right siding when they're on the wrong end of the locomotive? I've been collecting trains for about 20 years. Some kids got out a Lionel set, and I said, oh, that's the kind of trains I really enjoyed. I'd gone from Lionel to HO, which is, you know, more realistic, but it was a lot harder to work with. And I said, I want something that runs well and is fun to play with. There's half a dozen characters from Saturday Night Live. Most of them are kits, or kit bashed. And the chains, those are from toilet valves. those are the bases off the Trivia Pursuit game pieces. Just throw them in the yard, they make good looking junk. From here up is 3D printing, from there down, those are columns for wedding cakes. And that's called a flat because it's right up against the wall. It gives an illusion of more town behind where the wall starts. At the end of that trestle, that's the toxic waste dump. You can see kind of streaks of, you know, chemical residue from mining. That is actually a sofa cushion I found out in the woods. So it's kind of cool, you know, for years it was just a lot of plywood. And then, you know, I got the track finished, and then you start adding the scenery, and it really came to life when you started adding scenery. Once I got the scenery done, we started operating. Building things became less of a priority. Maintenance becomes a priority though. And it's important because I need to get over here to do maintenance from time to time. And it's a lot closer than stretching all the way across here. One thing I try to do in the room is there's nothing much beyond the edge of the table that is real scale to maintain that illusion of, of course, standing here ruins it.